JMS Flower Farms has been helping grape growers protect their vines from insects and fungal diseases with their exclusive product, JMS Stylet Oil, since 1992. Visit www.styletoil.com today.
Hi, I'm Matthew Malcolm with American Vineyard Magazine, and today thousands from the wine and grape industry gathered for the annual Unified Wine and Grape Symposium in Sacramento. Here several industry experts address growers and winemakers, including Jeff Bitter from Allied Grape Growers, who compared wine grape planting and harvest trends in California with the current market demand for wine, both domestic and worldwide.
Well, as an update to state of the industry addresses we've done in recent months, we've now completed our nursery survey of California grapevine nurseries, and what we found out in 2014 was that there was another, roughly 32,000 acres of vines put into the ground during this past year, which quite honestly surprised us quite a bit. We thought that after last year's 38,000 or so that would actually moderate more than that, and it didn't. But what we did find within those numbers is that the plantings were skewed toward the coast and even the northern interior of the state. And the plantings in the central and southern interior have pretty much completely stopped. And so as that production comes on into the future in 3-4 years, it's likely that the grapes produced and go into the wines made from those regions where it was planted is going to go into bottles of wine that are above $10 a bottle. The challenge is that today's market is that it's very segmented based on price. So below, let's say $9 or $10 a bottle, the market's fairly weak, and we're actually seeing a decline in shipment numbers. And this is a reversal of the trend that we saw throughout the recessionary times of 07, 08, 09, 2010, where the market was strengthening at the lower end because people were trading down at the price point of wine they were buying. And when that happened back in that recessionary period, the producers of those lower end wines decided that they needed more grapes for the future because the trend was up. And so we have this dynamic where grapes were planted and the future was planned for with regard to where we thought we were going to produce and consume into the next 10 years. And now we overnight saw that trend reverse. As consumers have gotten more confident in the economy, they're willing to spend a little bit more money, and they're trading up out of those price points of the $5, $7, $8 bottle and up into the teens. And so we're looking at a surplus situation now at the lower end of the market because of that. The other thing that's impacted us is imports, and the availability of global imports and the price points at which those imports are coming into the United States and the competition that poses. And it's really worked against us in the last 2 or 3 years as other countries have had oversupplies of lower end wine, because the producers of wines that produce wines even here in California aren't necessarily committed to just buying California product. They're going to go overseas and buy it if it's cheaper. And the consumers that are drinking those bottles aren't necessarily committed to just drinking California. They're not looking at the appellation when they buy the wine. They're looking at the price point. So that's another challenge that we're facing with regard to the sustainability of the Central Valley. And then lastly, we have a situation where the last 3 crops that we've had have been of ample size. And I think it was not necessarily anticipated to see crops of that size over the last 3 years. They've been strong crops, particularly in 12 and 13. And the reason that people didn't expect to see crops of that size is because we've been in a drought period. So it's almost been assumed and thought that we'll see smaller crops, and it hasn't happened yet. And even in 2014, it wasn't a small crop, it was an average size crop. So we're carrying in a lot of inventory, which is also putting pressure in the marketplace, particularly again for those lower end wines.
Thank you, Jeff. It's important to stay on top of the curve when it comes to the ever-changing economy and wine market trends, and you can always stay informed by reading American Vineyard Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.